Richard Wagner was a very controversial figure. He really changed the way that we view the composer in our society. He didn't mind being deified, even during his lifetime. His sense of himself was that he was the artist and everyone else needed to kneel around him. This is a piece that features percussion, the percussion as soloist, and there's a whole section for drum set, which sounds, it's very 70s rock and roll. But I think it's fun to listen to Wagner in a new manifestation through the eyes of a contemporary composer.
My piece ends with the opening low E flat that begins the Wagner Ring of the Nibelung, and so my piece begins at the end and ends at the beginning in a way, so as though there's a loop and the entire process then repeats itself again. I used a lot of the motives from the Wagner. I only used ones that had something to do with Alberich. I've been asked a few times, well, why didn't you use this motive, or why didn't you use that motive? Well, if I couldn't connect it in some way to Alberich, I didn't use it. The first movement is mostly wooden instruments and drums. The second features the marimba, for the most part. And the third begins with the drum set, the rock drumming section, and then goes back to the drums and woodblocks and so forth from the first movement. And there's a big cadenza at the end, which is written out for him and the percussionists of the orchestra.
It's going to be great to work once again with the amazing percussionist, Scottish percussionist Colin Currie, who I've performed this piece with him many, many times, and he does an incredible job. Wagner's relationship with the brass, particularly the horns, was quite unusual. He always used them to announce some kind of important event. I think it's important to listen to the way Wagner uses the instruments in his operas. For Wagner, the orchestra itself was too contained, too limiting. So Wagner starts inventing new instruments to be played in the orchestra. Of course, they're now called Wagner Tuben. They're played by the French horns, but they're sort of these creatures between horn and tuba, and a hybrid instrument. And they have a more primitive, more bestial quality, and so we hear this, the dawn motive from the Ring played on these Wagner Tuben, written by Rouse, and it's really an amazing sound. Wagner himself changed the nature of the orchestra itself. I mean, he created these instruments for the orchestra. He pushed the envelope of what was possible. I mean, everything about Wagner was over the top, not just the length of his operas. He invented his own opera company just to perform his operas. Everything about Wagner was bigger than life, and his influence not only on the history of music, but history in general, can't be overstated, I think.